Like, this is where entrepreneurs go to die. They're like, oh, I'm going to die.
And yes, sorry. Yeah. I don't want to just make this go away.
Make it go away. Like, just make it, like, literally make it At MBA Chartered Professional Accountants, we have 3 core beliefs. 1, we believe that business owners are the most important people on the planet. 2, we believe that the traditional accounting firm business model is flawed and fails to serve you. And 3, we believe the MBA way gives you what you truly want and deserve, resources and advice that helps you grow your business and your life. This is the MBA Way podcast. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the MBA Way podcast. I'm your host, Eric Solbakken, and today I have a fantastic guest for us. It's Paul Aemisegeo. Now, did I pronounce that right, Paul?
You nailed it.
Nailed it. Aemisegeo. We were working prior just to the podcast, and I was trying to make sure that I got the name right because my last name gets totally bastardized all the time too. People like Solbakken, Bach. My mother-in-law still can't even do my last name properly. She calls me Solbakken, and I'm like, where's it's Solbakken. I've been married to her. I've been with her daughter for 20 years. It's like, hello, what's going on here? Anyway,
I have a similar experience. My father-in-law is from Hungary. Came over here in the 70s, and my mother-in-law is from Poland. So, English is their second language, and they cannot pronounce my last name at all. And my wife's maiden name is Papp, P-A-P-P, and she got Aemisegeo.
Aemisegeo. I mean, it's got to have a little more oomph to it. Aemisegeo.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, right on, man. Okay. So
when I come on, I should have you introduce me wherever I go.
I'm down with that. I'm all over that. I can do that. That works for me. Look, so Paul, I met you through, a podcast placement company, and they reached out to me and said, hey, you should have Paul on the podcast, and here's all the reasons why. And we talked about it a little bit prior to coming on here. But the thing that I wanted to let our listeners know is like, okay, who is Paul? Like, and what does he do? And, and then I can kind of get into why we're going to have this great conversation together. But can you give us a little background on who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So thank you first and foremost for allowing me to be on. So I really appreciate it. I grew up in the New York metro area, right outside of New York City, played sports, college. And when I came out of college, ADP is one of the largest payroll companies, in the world, basically. And they hired a lot of competitive athletes and stuff like that. So I went on all these interviews over the course of like 3 days, like 7-8 hours of interviews, and they never hired me. And literally they were hiring anyone that could walk and talk and that, played a college sport. So I thought I fit the mold. They never hired me. And they said, sort of as I was walking out the door, that I'm too entrepreneurial and I don't fit the ADP mold, so to speak. So I was like, what the hell am I going to do now? Move back home. I was sort of counting on this job. And so then I got hired by this startup in the benefits space, in the health insurance and dental insurance and space in the small company outside of New York City. And I stayed there for 20 years. I learned the business. And in the midst of me being there, I started my own payroll company, which was sort of a slap in the face to ADP. And
way to stick it to them. I
sold that company. And then I started Payroll Mart. And Payroll Mart is a wholesaler for payroll, HR, working with small to mid-sized employers across the country and the world. So, where you and I were talking is I work with, Canadian founders, Canadian-owned companies, UK-owned companies that launched their U.S. domestic entities, and they really don't have any idea on sort of state compliance and federal laws when it comes to HR and payroll and so on and so forth. So, yeah, so that's my background.
One of the things that I loved when I looked up your profile is I watched a couple of your videos explaining the different process you have with it and how you support the business owner. Not just here, we're just going to process your payroll, but we're actually going to help you through all of the other intricacies of dealing with employees. And just as a side note, I can't stand ADP. I've used it before and it's a pain in my ass. Okay. It's like, forget it. I'm past, right? So the fact that they saw you and said, no, you're too entrepreneurial, you don't fit the mold, tells me why ADP sucks so much. Is ADP is a bureaucratic organization. They've gotten to a certain size and a certain market cap that they lose their entrepreneurial spirit and they dive bomb into the bureaucratic loop. And now they're just trying to hold on and keep everybody in their right controls, right? Like bureaucrats control the world. Entrepreneurs create value. So entrepreneurs create the value, then the bureaucrats control it. So I'm very grateful that they saw that you were an entrepreneur from an early startup or from the early phases, said no to you, and you got to stick it to them by starting your own payroll firm, because now you actually can help the entrepreneur beyond just filing their compliance stuff. You're actually helping them traverse all of those intricacies.
100%. Yeah, you're spot on. And so after I sold my payroll company and I started Payroll Mart, my vision and sort of mission was to work with any employer, any founder, any entrepreneur, wherever they are. And if they want to do business in the US and or hire employees abroad, we could help them hold their hand and take it one step further. If at the end of the day, they want to go to ADP or they want to go to Paychex or some of these other larger payroll companies, I will help them make that happen if they're 100% sold on that, with the fundamental difference that we have to stay involved. So if we stay involved long term, then their interaction with ADP day in and day out will be negligible, minimal. They never have to get on the phone with ADP. They never have to deal with the bureaucracy. We filter all of that out. We stay in the middle and we shield them from that, and they can focus on running their business day to day.
That's brilliant, because I used to say sometimes that I was a translator for business owners. Yeah. So the business owners would be talking to they'd say the government, the CR, and here it's CRA and the IRS, they're coming at the business owner, and the business owner's like, I don't understand this. Said, don't worry, I'll translate. Put me in the middle and I will speak the geek to the tax people, turn around and explaining it in real terms to the business owner so they can actually get done what they need to get done. And I've actually done this to accounting firms too. When I had my old accounting firm practice, I actually inserted myself between the auditor and the client, because I can't stand audit. Like, I hate audit with a passion, because there's no value in an audit other than it's a compliance driven. It's the compliance side. It's the control. It's bureaucratic. So I was like, well, let's get a big firm like KPMG or Ernst & Young or whoever it was at the time. They'll do the audit, but I'll be the translator between the business owner, because I know what they really want to get done in their lives. And I'll just be the filter so they don't have to deal with the painful auditors anymore. And so you're doing that same
exact thing, exactly the same thing. When I saw the name of your podcast, I loved it, because one of my pet peeves is all the advisors that entrepreneurs and founders have. The CPA is one of their, sort of should be one of the best advisors. They're a lawyer, their insurance advisor. None of them are in the room together. None of them work in conjunction, sort of in favor of the employee. They're all in their siloed sort of. So like when I read about sort of your show, I was like, I want to be on this show because I think I would connect with you, perfectly. But yeah, anyway.
That's awesome. And and that's the drum that I've been beating for a long time, about the fact that you've got the business owner, and you, having had the experience of being in a startup, and learning the grit and how difficult it is to start a business. Being a business is not easy. There's constant problems. You're putting out fires. You're a constant problem solver. And they turn to their professional advisors for respite. Please help me. Give me some clarity on that all this hard work and suffering is actually getting me to where I want to go. And then, for the business owner, and they don't understand this as much as you and I do because we've been in the mix, you see the lawyer and the accountant and the financial advisor and the banker and the insurance person, they're not talking to one another. So they're making it even worse. It's like they're compounding the problem.
100%.
And the whole thing is just sit and have a conversation and find out what the client wants. Where are they going? What do they want? Let's build the systems around you to help you get there and remove barriers. It's such an easy conversation to have, but it seems like it's a mind-blowing experiment for most professionals. And I love the fact, and again, that's why I saw your videos and I was like, I'm going to have a conversation with Paul. This is going to be great because we're going to be resonating on the same frequency here. Like, what does the business owner want and how can we help them get that? But I love the fact that you're like the translator between the ADP and the business owner, because having experienced ADP, I wanted to do very unspeakable things to their system. It was complete garbage. So,
well, from your perspective, an employer may want to hire, an employee. Let's say they want, talking U.S. states here, they want to hire an employee in California or New York, sort of a higher compliance type of state, right? Like they may go to the CPA, their advisor, and say, "Hey, what kind of tax or what should I be thinking about?" Or and the CPA is going to be like, "I don't know, call ADP or call your payroll company." And the payroll company is going to say, well, we're not tax advisors, right? So we can't speak to sort of the tax implications of you hiring somebody in California or New York versus Florida, right? And the entrepreneur founder is going to be like, why do I have these people they're just pushing the buck to the other person and no one's really answering my question. So
exactly. It's the ultimate disclaimer at the front end of the engagement. Okay, I'm going to help you out, except I'm going to put a big caveat at the front end, right? I don't do this and this and this and this. And you're like going, but I need to know what that is. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't do that. And I'm not going to talk to you about that. You see, there's the difference when
I'm not going to help you find someone that can do that.
There's the point. There's the point. I don't protest to know everything. And I think there's a big difference between a professional and a non-professional. A non-professional doesn't know what they don't know, or they think they know everything. A professional person knows what they don't know, and they know where to go to get it. So when the client comes in and they give me all these things, I'm like, okay, I know the tax stuff, and here's how the tax works, and we can comply here and here, but I don't understand these different states and different provinces and different areas. Just let's find someone who is. And I would have you in my Rolodex. Let's talk to Paul. Like, let's call Paul, right? Yeah. There's a good tagline. There's a tagline. Just call Paul. Right? Just call Paul. Right? And then bring you into the conversation so you can speak your expertise. I speak my expertise. We apply it to the client's problem and we fix it.
Correct. Yep. Exactly.
Isn't this groundbreaking stuff we're talking about here? Like, it boggles my mind that we're still having like that. Like, I remember this when I started in the profession. So this year, Paul, I'm turning to 50. It'll be 36 years I've been in the CPA profession. 36 years. Wow. I remember in the first few years of my articlings, when I first started going to the accounting firm and starting to learn this stuff, I remember thinking that back then, going, how come we're not working with the lawyer and the financial vet? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't understand it then.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
And 36 years later, we're still having the same conversation because nobody wants to talk to one another. Right. And so this is the thing with the MBA, our model is, and the big problem with the accounting profession, the reason why the accountants don't want to talk to anybody else is because, like, oh, how do I charge for that?
Correct.
Oh my gosh. I got to bill by the hour and I have my work in progress and I'm going to get in trouble with my partners. And I go and do this work for the client, but then I have to turn around and bill the client. And that's uncomfortable because Like, how do I do that? I wanted to get rid of all that. And so that's why we give our clients a subscription-based professional model. It says, here's the price, monthly subscription. We take care of the tax, the accounting, and the advisory. We'll look at what's known as your 4 planning pillars, your business, your wealth, retirement, and estate. And we'll talk to your other advisors and make sure that we're in alignment.
Yeah.
All included, we're done. So anytime there's a question and the client's not sure, I'm like, great, I'll pick up the phone and call a lawyer. And the lawyer's like, oh yeah, well, this is what this is. Or the financial advisor says this, or the insurance person. There's no friction because I'm not freaked out, right? But it was still amazing, even when I had that model, how many of these other professional advisors still just didn't get it. Right? They just don't get it. But you get it. And that's why I see the twinkle in your eyes. You're just kind of like, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I love it. It makes me excited.
Yeah. So tell me, I'm really curious about your entrepreneurial journey. I love the fact that ADP saw that in you, that you were more of an entrepreneur. When you were first getting started with your business, what is the problem? Like, this is obviously one problem, but where were the other problems that you saw that needed to be solved? And how could it have been you to solve those problems? What was the problem? What was the problem? Why is right now a good time to address this problem? And then why is it you to do it?
So similar to like what you were like when you first started out as a CPA and sort of like the lack of communication between advisors, what you zoned in on, what I like starting on the benefits side and insurance side especially in the New York metro area, all insurance is distributed by third-party advisors, right? Insurance brokers. They're only paid if they do a good job. And if they do a good job, meaning that they're available, they return phone calls, they answer questions, they do whatever they can to help the client, they retain the business. They're not paid by the hour like most lawyers and CPAs, right? So in the payroll world, what I kept from when I interviewed, I realized that a lot of these, and I don't want to bash payroll sales reps. I have friends that are payroll sales reps, but they go in, they do their job, they sell, and they only can offer, they only can offer one provider, one option. And if it's not the best option for the client, they still try to sell that option. And if they are successful in selling that option, they're no longer around. Once they sell, they move on, right? So I witnessed this over and over from the other side of the table, being on the insurance side. I would see our clients or our brokers' clients go in and they'll sign up with ADP or Paychex or one of these payroll providers, and they would just get lost in the shuffle. They would go into implementation, the handoff from sales to implementation. During that conversion process, the client would just get overwhelmed, right? Because the salesperson is gone, implementation person comes in and says, okay, Eric, now you need to train 70 hours on our new, ADP platform. And, you're going to be meeting with our HR person, our payroll person, our tax person, right? You're going to be meeting with all these people, our paid time off person, our timekeeping person, and they're going to have 6 or 7 people on the implementation call. Sales reps nowhere to be found. And now the client feels like, what the hell did I just do? I'm with one payroll company, and now I made the move to change, and I'm in this implementation process, and I have 1,000 emails that I got to worry about running my business, and now I have this payroll company asking me for all this information, all this training I have to do. And my point is, it's a very overwhelming process. Admittedly, the payroll companies, this is their biggest bottleneck. This is where it fails initially. This is why clients get so frustrated with the payroll provider, because it happens during implementation, during conversion. Stuff that's coming out of the old payroll system is not going into the new payroll system. So this was the problem that I identified, the pain point that I identified and I wanted to fix sort of early on in my career. So that's why I started my own payroll company, and I learned more and more about the payroll industry. And then I said, you know what? Instead of having my own payroll company, I think there's an opportunity to be a third party to represent multiple payroll companies, similar to what I was doing with insurance advisors, being agnostic and being that translator, as you say, right? So identified the bottleneck problem that I thought was a big pain point. I didn't really know for sure how sort of big the pain was. But then when I got into it, the payroll companies started coming to me and saying, hey, yeah, this is a big problem for us internally. Like, we suck at it. We suck at converting the clients and bringing them on board.
Isn't that refreshing, though, when a company actually recognizes what they suck at?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, think about that. Like, for our listeners here, they're business owners and the rest of it. It's like, if you can actually point to what you really suck at and what needs to be fixed, that is a huge opportunity for innovation. That's a huge opportunity. And that's where the entrepreneurs go to feed and to grow. Where's the problem? It's like, we're not problem makers so much as entrepreneurs, but we're problem solvers. When you see a problem, we're like, oh, I want to fix that. I need to make something new happen. So if I'm hearing you correctly, then Paul, was this a totally different market? Did you create a whole new market of being? So you're like a market of one. You're like the first kind of wholesale broker of HR services.
Payroll services. Yeah. There are some third party implementation like facilitators. There's a few others out there like us, but not necessarily the same. Some of them came from the payroll world, like the larger payroll companies. But yeah, I would say that it's there's probably a handful of us that do it.
That's so cool. Like, I love that, blazing the trail and making something brand new. When you see a problem, then you fix it. You see, there's the spirit of entrepreneurialism, right? Let's take something from a lower level of productivity and bring it to a higher level of productivity. And the only way we can do that is by pointing out what's wrong with the system, what's wrong with the model. And that's something that I constantly look at. I'm like, okay, what's wrong with this model? What's the pain point? And then how do you fix it? And so you found that you've wedged yourself into that spot to be that relief valve. I still love the translator. I love the fact that you're a translator. I
agree. I like that. I'm gonna use that with your permission.
Oh, please do. Yeah, no, you trust. So, jokingly, I've said it to business. I've been business owner, like at strategic advisory. So I've been in the accounting space for 36 years. I realized that I'm actually in a transformative space. So I'm like a transformational coach. I help businesses transform. I help individuals transform. And one of the transformations I had with a lot of business owners is they're like, I don't understand my accountant and I don't understand what these guys do. And I said, no problem. Put me in here. I said, I speak their geek. Okay. Yeah. I will translate for you. So I'll talk to them. They'll tell me what it is. I'll turn around, I'll translate, and I'll tell you exactly what it means to you and your business and what I recommend you do. Right. And so I'll do that between the accountants and the client. I'll do that between the financial advisor and the client. I'll do that between the lawyers and the client. Because you're trying to repackage what the technical information into a actionable step that actually impacts their lives.
Yeah.
So you're the translator. It's like they're speaking Italiano, Paul. It's Italian. They don't speak this. Aemisegeo. Right? They don't speak it Italian, so you got to help translate it into a language they understand.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Where it crosses over. And so 401k retirement plan, I get
it's the equivalent in Canada is like an RRSP. Same like yeah. So 401k, yeah.
So employees have deductions come out of their payroll contributions, and that money has to be sent sort of on their behalf, pulled out of the employer's account and, pulled into the retirement plan, specific for them. And there's a report that's generated every time payroll is run. And that, for a lot of employers, that's a manual process. So let's say you're an employee and you want to change how much is coming out of your paycheck, right? And going into your retirement account. Many employers, you would go to Mary in HR and say, hey, Mary, I want to change my contribution. And she would say, okay, she would manually do it versus you logging into the retirement plan account, changing your contribution within that system, that automatically feeding over to the payroll system, and then the payroll system automatically making the change and then sending the money back. So that's called a 360-degree integration. I'm not a retirement plan person. The retirement plan financial advisor who sets it up doesn't get into the weeds to make that happen or make it easier for the employer. They just they're managing the assets, or they're advising on the funds and the investment choices, right? But someone actually has to get in there and kind of create that integration between those two parties. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that happens multiple times across, because the information that's housed in the payroll system, there's many stakeholders that need that information, right? The retirement plan people, the insurance people, workers' comp. So workers' compensation, if you get, or disability, if you get hurt on the job or off the job, they need that information. So the information is so centralized and so sort of hard to get, because of security, right? And it's payroll, but there's ways to sort of open it up and send it where it needs to go.
As you're explaining this intricacies of payroll and the source deductions into 401ks, and, reporting requirements and security requirements, it's making my head spin. I remember being just for any business owner, the business owner that's an entrepreneur like yourself, and they're wanting to create more value in the world. And then we start talking about all this process stuff, and they almost this is where entrepreneurs go to die. They're like, oh, I'm going to die.
And yes, sorry. They're like, I don't want to just make this go away.
Make it go away. Just make it, literally make it fuck off. Just make it fuck off. I'm happy, right? And this is the thing that I see. I see the equivalent with the accounting world is people come in to see their accountant, and the accountant goes on, well, we have to put in this 401k and the 1124/7 form and the 526 and the third, and they're talking in acronyms. It's the UCC or the APV, and we're going to depreciate this. It's good. And the business owner's looking at the accountant going, can you just make it go away? Yeah. Just make it go away, right? Instead of it's so hard being an entrepreneur. There's so much going on, right? And then when they make complexity upon complexity, and all I see, I see this big movement of every government in the world that comes in, they think that the only thing that gives them value is if they keep adding more rules. And all they do is they add more rules upon rules upon rules upon rules. And then now there's this massive intertwining of 40 million compliance filings that has to happen. And the business owner is just going, I just want to feed the world. I just want to take care of, I just want to focus on my business. And the thing that I love is that you and I get that. We want to take away some specific pain and some blockages so the business owner can go and build the life they want for themselves.
Correct.
That's it. It's it's not really hard. Business doesn't have to be as hard as it is. It's the government and all the bureaucracy layers makes it more complex and difficult. I always like to simplify things down and go, look, you're an entrepreneur. You want to create some value in the world. And so for you, you're taking away this pain for the business owner that wants to create value in the world. So you've got this multiplier effect of being an entrepreneur who wants to help an entrepreneur. That's me. I'm an entrepreneur who wants to help an entrepreneur be more of an entrepreneur. Let's take away the problems and the stresses of the traditional accounting firm model. You're saying, let's take away the stresses and the traditional pain of the HR model and simplify it down so that you can help the entrepreneur kind of go, okay. Now I can kind of stretch my wings. Now let's go create some more value in the world, right?
100%.
Yeah. And so you basically, I think you had me at hello, Paul, because I think when I saw your video, I figured we were going to see this. Now, one of the things, I just kind of want to shift gears slightly here on the conversation. I want to talk about your experience as being an entrepreneur, because we kind of set the stage here and said, you understand the problems in the space. You understand the interpreter role that you have now, right? And yes, you don't have to pay me any royalties for that one. I promise. Hey, just use it. I'm your interpreter. And how you've gone in and fixed this problem for the business owners, but you are yourself an entrepreneur, and especially going into a space that is brand new. You're creating a brand new category of one type approach. What was it in your experience of going through that process? Can you highlight some of the highs and lows and the experiences that you had, and share some of that information with our listeners to just say, because one of the things I find as an entrepreneur, it's the most lonely job on the planet. And as soon as you find an entrepreneur, and that's why you and I are smiling so much on this podcast, and there's this, we both have like shit-eating grins on our face right now as we're talking, because it's like, oh, someone gets me, right? Entrepreneurs, we get each other to support one another. That's another reason why I did this podcast, is because I want to give entrepreneurs these tools and resources to help them grow their business and their life. What were some of the things, the through line for yourself that was, here's the highs, here's the lows. This is what I learned going through this, creating this category of one. Like, can you kind of walk me through a little bit of that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And so when ADP didn't hire me, right? And I got hired by this startup company. I got hired for zero salary.
Hold on. You worked for free?
Worked for free, right? And they said, here's a phone. You're going to start calling insurance brokers and advisors, get them to like you, create relationships. And I'm not really extroverted. I'm more introverted person. I'm not going to go into a room and work the room, right? But on the phone, I pound away on phone calls. This is many, many years ago, right? So I got the trust of a few brokers. They had clients. They introduced me. I did a good job. First 3 months, I made $4.32.
All right. You got your first sale, man. Congratulations.
After 3 years, I was making a considerable, couple $100,000, right? Doing well. Still young. I built that book of business over a 20-year period. And the point of my story is that gave me opportunity, because it was recurring revenue, similar to your subscription model. Thousands of clients. I had hundreds of insurance brokers. So I had a channel partner distribution that I built over many years. And that gave me a little bit of a head start, or gave me a little bit of a soft landing when I said, hey, I want to get bought out of my book of business. During that time, I had started my payroll company and sold it, but I still maintained my book of business. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I didn't leave my day job. I still was managing and building, and I was very fortunate in the sense that the company was amazing. And in retrospect, I probably should have never left. Like, I probably could still be there and could have started Payroll Mart along with it. But I thought I had overextended my stay. I was pushing the limits, and I needed to kind of go out and really put everything into Payroll Mart. I hope I'm answering your question, but so when I did, wow, like I needed to lean on those relationships that I had, and not everybody understood what the hell I was doing. Like, to your point, like I'm sort of creating this space and this business, and they're like, well, what do you do? Are you a payroll broker? Like, so the messaging, the positioning, the strategy that I never had to worry about really, because when I ran my payroll company, it was pretty easy. Like, I'm going to take business away from ADP and Paychecks. Like, it's very, like, positioning, messaging is really easy. But what I was doing with Payroll Mart when I first started, I was not good at strategy. I was good at sort of tactical stuff, visionary stuff, like where our positioning and messaging, that was really massive challenge to me initially. And I'm finally starting to figure it out like 6 years later, like where we fit, where we're really effective, what my message is, who we help. We have a bunch of case studies now, testimonials, right? Like I had no testimonials. So the second part that was really challenging was putting myself out there, marketing. I had, like my marketing in the past was develop relationships with people that are really good salespeople, and then they would introduce me. Now I have to go out and sell and market on my own, direct. That was really a massive challenge to me because I'm more introverted than extroverted. So that's been a big challenge. And then cash flow, managing cash flow. I had a recurring revenue business for 20 years that I got bought out of. You get very relaxed in knowing that you're getting paid on thousands of clients, right? Starting and building a whole new book of business. My Payroll Mart is recurring revenue as well, but starting that over from zero, that's hard. It's a slow grind. Recurring, by the hour consulting is quick hits. You can pick up consulting gigs and make some money, but it's transactional. Building a recurring revenue stream where you have to also service the client. So if you sell it, you got to service it. You got to make sure it stays so you can continue to charge. Rebuilding that was super challenging. So I could go on and go on and on and on.
So I am just feverishly writing notes down here, Paul, because I'm just picking up all these highlights, and here's some of the takeaways that I got from your story here. Okay. The fact that you were willing to start with that first business or that first thing and not get paid.
I was the only one. I was the only one that joined the company without a salary. And I was like the fifth. Yeah. I was like the third, fourth, or fifth sales rep. Yeah.
That is the number one sign that you're an entrepreneur. Because
we're not too smart.
No. Well, I didn't say entrepreneurs were smart. There's like a very small percentage of the population that are entrepreneurial. Okay. Very, very small. Yep. But that one should have been your first clue that you were an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah. No, I knew. Yeah.
Because entrepreneurs do not have a mindset of what's the word I'm looking for here? They do not have a mindset that they should just be given something for nothing.
No. Right? And secondly, I'm going to tell you what my mindset was. If you paid me, then you owned me. If you didn't pay me and I kicked ass and did a good job, then it's more of a level playing field, or maybe I have a little bit more leverage in the relationship, right?
There's this. You started with zero pay, so what you're willing to do as an entrepreneur is you wanted to create value in the world first. Yeah. You created the value, then you get compensated. Look, show the value, and then I'll get compensated. Entrepreneurs are out there building value in the world, and then they get paid. They don't believe that they should just get money for showing up. They need to create value in the world. So that's the number one thing I just kind of want to highlight in your story. The second one, that when you left the book that you had, you sold it and you started Payroll Mart, is you did what Tony Robbins calls is burn the boats. Yep. So if you want to take the island, burn the boats. So you went, I'm going to burn the boats and I'm going to quit that job. I'm going to start this new venture, and now I have to make it work.
You're 100% right. Because I felt like if I stayed there, under protection of that book of business and kind of just coasted, I wasn't going to reach any sort of great success.
And it's funny because you said in the conversation, you go, well, looking back on it, I probably should have kept the book. No, you shouldn't have. You did the right thing, dude. Yeah. Like, don't discount the fact that you did the right thing by just a hard decision, which was cut the ties, burn the boats, take the island.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And then the third thing that you did that I have a note in here is that your success has come upon the foundation of building relationships. You are a relationship builder and you create relationships. And that was the solid foundation that you understand that people do business with people. They don't do business with businesses. And so you created this relationship foundation, and no wonder you've been successful, because you're a relationship guy. And that is the critical point of business.
You hit it right on the head. You're probably familiar with these companies, but Gusto and Zenefits and a lot of these companies that have hatched out of the Y Combinator out of Silicon Valley. Zenefits specifically went right after the insurance broker industry. They tackled the insurance broker industry and ADP, and they went balls to the wall. They're going to take out and undercut and get rid of all the insurance brokers. And the reason why they failed, they raised $550 plus million. And the reason why they failed is because they had no ability to create relationships, solid relationships with their clients. And yes, they might be able to take business away temporarily from you or I or the other broker, but they're going to F it up.
Totally.
They're not going to be available. They're not going to pick up the phone. They're not going to pick up the cell phone like you or I would do for our client.
And I think therein lies a shining light for all of us about the future. There's stories about AI is coming and it's going to take away your jobs. It's going to take away this. And entrepreneurs are freaking out going, how do I automate? How do I get AI involved in the rest of this? I remember the whole automation craze that started in the beginning of all this too, like before AI was even around. And I've always been of the opinion that AI is only as good as the human behind it to use it. So use AI as a tool. If you let AI be in charge, you're the tool, right? So I think there's a great opportunity here for people to revisit and reacquaint themselves with the fact that business is a people transaction. It's people doing business with people. It's relational, not transactional. So as soon as you make it transactional, it goes to the lowest common denominator and it pushes the pricing all the way down to the bottom. And that's what I've said in accounting firms. So I have another business, it's called the Accountant Success Formula. And that's what I work with accounting firms, which is how I ended up working with Peter and MBA. And that's why I'm a partner there, because I love what we're doing. And I completely believe in it. Create those relationships. Use the AI and the technology to help you deliver that personal relationship better. Yeah. Use that instead of the other way around. So I love the fact that you've talked about these other ones that have come in there, but this is why you've done so well, is because you built your business on that core knowledge of building relationships. So here's the thing. As much as I did at the beginning of the call, or the beginning of our interview here, I gave ADP a real hard time. I'm going to finally give them kudos here. They did know who you were, Paul. You're an entrepreneur. Yeah. You had an entrepreneurial spirit. And
I agree with you. I do thank them. They did a favor.
They did.
Yeah.
And so this is the thing for any of the listeners out there. Just think about this. Getting started, create value in the world before you expect to get it. Burn the boats and take the island. Yeah. And the other thing, build the relationships. Build the relationships. I
would add one other thing.
Yes.
That on top of building your relationships, so very important. If you have a lot of ideas, write them down. Don't just discount them. Don't let anybody tell you that you're crazy or you're not focused or you have too many ideas or you switch gears too many times or you change directions too many times. That's what people have accused me of being, right? So because I have so many different ideas, but you know who's supported every one of my ideas has been my wife. She's never said, she's been sort of the 100% in my corner. She's never said you're crazy, even though she probably thinks I am.
No, she knows you're crazy. No. She knows you're crazy. My wife knows I'm crazy, but she's also my number one fan. I totally get it. Yes.
And same with my kids. Yeah. So anyway, any of the other fellow entrepreneurs out there, if you're listening, jot your ideas down. They flow so much into my head, I can't even control them. But but
that's the fun. That's the fun part.
That's what gets me so excited. Yeah.
Think about it. You become childlike, not the childish, but be childlike. In other words, play with the creativity. True entrepreneurs love to play. Like creativity is intelligence having fun.
I think, and I've always said that I'm not artistic, but my wife says this is your sort of artistic. Because like I see a guitar there, I can't play music, guitar, any of that, right? But this is sort of my artistry that I have a talent for. Yeah, I haven't. So yeah.
Paul, this has been an awesome conversation. I'm so glad we did this. This is great. If people want to find you, if they're expanding into the U.S. or whatever, they think
they're trying to come to U.S., open a business, any size company, one employee, any size company to work with. So on LinkedIn, you can look me up on LinkedIn. Maybe you could spell my name for them in the notes.
It'll be all in the show notes, but the key here is to make sure that you pronounce it properly.
My email is paul@payrollmart.com. So it's very easy. paul@payrollmart.com.
Perfect. And there's payrollmart.com. This has been a fantastic conversation, my friend. I think instantly I feel like you're a brother from another mother, even though I'm Norwegian and you got Italian. I think there's some bloodline there between the two of us. So this has been great, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you're a business owner or CPA who believes the accounting profession has let you down, then please reach out to us at www.mbacpa.ca so we can have a chat to see if we're a fit to work together. We're always looking forward to talking to you. See you next time.